Hello. Okay. I think I am live. Let me check and make sure on my phone. I am live. Let me check and make sure on my phone. Yeah. Okay. There. Yeah. I just need to fix that. Okay. 1 second. Good. Great. So I've been planning this live stream for a little while. I don't know if anyone's gonna watch. I haven't really done a live stream before. I don't know if it looks any different. I'm doing it on Hangouts live on the air as opposed to just doing it through the regular YouTube, because I know with Hangouts you can share your own screen, and I really want to bring up some visuals on my screen. So if it looks different or something, that's probably why. At the end of this, at like 7:25-ish, where I'm going to draw the winner for the giveaway that I organized back in November. I have everyone's names in the cup here. And yeah, so I'm just going to talk about a bunch of stuff. I got tea. I also have this jacket. I got it today. My friend Katie gave it to me. I'm really happy about it. I love it so much. Okay, let me see if I can share my screen. I have a bunch of stuff that I want to talk about. There we go. Share. I just want to share. Okay, that works. Okay, so first I wanted to go in and look at my tweet. See, the thing is, I like learning from data about stuff, and it's very difficult to actually learn from data when you don't have any data. So that's why I'm really happy that this tweet actually got some interesting feedback on it. I'm definitely going to go through a couple different social medias and show what kind of data they give you. This is Twitter's analytics. If you type in that URL, it's not super easy to get to this for some reason, but it's definitely available to everyone. Yeah, you can see that screen. Okay, good. So you can see like your top tweets, engagement, which is possibly the most important, but Twitter doesn't give like the normal user a ton of data from their website. They definitely have it catered towards promoted or like when you're paying for stuff. So I'm sure they give you more data if you are paying money towards Twitter, and that goes the same for Instagram or YouTube or anywhere else. But Twitter does a pretty good job. They definitely show you impressions and engagement, which is like how many interactions you actually get with it. So let's take a look at this. So as you can see, I had about a 1-to-5 ratio of impressions to engagement, and impressions is an important word to understand. It basically means anytime someone saw that tweet. And it's interesting to talk about impressions because it's kind of like the most basic form of data any platform can give you. I mean, Instagram definitely tells you impressions. Where else? Like pretty much everywhere tells you impressions. The one that doesn't is actually YouTube, which is kind of weird. YouTube does not tell you impressions. I never really thought about that. Ugh, I need to get back to this. I never really thought about that until today. I was watching a live stream between Tim from the Creator Channel, or whatever he is. There's this Google employee that has a YouTube channel, and with Hank Green, and he was asking about why can't I see the impressions of who watches my videos, and he said that the reason he kind of said part of the reason they didn't want to show impressions was because it's such a high percentage. Like for every 10,000 impressions, there's one actual click on the video, one actual view. So that's interesting. But yeah. So again, as you can see here, You can see like how many times someone clicks on the link, which means they clicked on the photo, how many times this went through to get to my profile. So that's kind of helps you think about building your following. Yeah, but again, as you can see, like half of that was them trying to get you to pay to promote that. So I did also want to go and look at the results from a poll I had. If you remember, I had a poll about, I've been really interested in how people talk about paid sponsorships and brands and stuff. And I realized that my perception about how much money people actually made through these sponsorships is much, much lower than it is in reality. And I thought this was a really good example. Instagram, this is a good thing to look at. It's Tyler Oakley's paid sponsorship with Skype. Instagram does a really good job at denoting where, or allowing you to denote where something is a paid promotion, but especially since the FCC guidelines were updated recently, so it's kind of they definitely do well at that. Snapchat does not have this feature where you can like select a box. YouTube does, but most creators do not utilize YouTube's paid promotion feature thing, which is not great. But the basic rule is before the fold, which is like if you've written so much in a caption, then it'll fold. That's where you need to denote that it's a paid sponsorship. So here's Tyler Oakley's. Let's see if I can show a couple more. He really promoted it everywhere. Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, I'm sure. And then he had his YouTube video, and it was using Skype. Julian actually did a promotion with Skype, so it's not crazy that they did it with Tyler Oakley. But then here I had a couple different options about how much people thought Tyler Oakley made from this. And it really, I mean, obviously I only got 17 votes, so it's not that accurate about people's perception. About a fourth said under 25 grand. About half said between 25 grand and 100,000, which is I think it falls upwards of 100,000. But I mean, I don't really know. The difficult thing about this is just gauging people's perceptions. And I don't really know the answer. Only like Tyler and his team actually know the answer. But previous to like, if you had asked me a couple months ago what I thought about this, I would have said like, oh, Tyler made like $2,000 off of that, which, I mean, again, I don't actually know, but I don't know. One other thing I just quickly wanted to go over, there's this really long list about all the tweets that went viral or like over 100K in 2017, and I watched the whole thing and I laughed, and I went through and I laughed, and then I was kind of thinking about Twitter, and I reflected on it in the future of Twitter, and the thing that's really, really interesting about this is pretty much every single post is not text-based, it's photo or video or like GIF-based, which is interesting because, I mean, Twitter was made as like a text-based website, you know? It's not like that's what you think about it as tweets. It's not images like you think about Facebook for images. That's what it used to be. But really, all these ones, it's interesting to see that in order to be really successful on Twitter, you need to be using images, and that's much more engaging. So that's just an interesting thing to think about. You don't really think about it, but like it's definitely true. Twitter is not just a text-based website anymore. Okay, let's keep moving on. I have a lot of stuff to go through in a short time. So another thing that I've noticed really with all of the socials in the last year is they have stepped up their advertising game incredibly. Even like YouTube definitely has, Instagram definitely has, Twitter definitely has. I'm seeing a lot more promoted stuff on Twitter. Twitter is definitely, I'm saying definitely so many times, but Twitter and a bunch of other platforms pushed out their poll feature, which I used in the Tyler Oakley thing. The poll feature is really interesting because people like engaging in it. And especially on Twitter, whenever I see a poll, I will vote, and I think that's a common experience for most people, and Twitter has, I'm sure, is telling their brands to use polls because it really fosters engagement, and you get to see like the results for the polls, so it's a good thing for brands to be using. So brands are definitely using that on Twitter. Instagram also has their poll feature. YouTube has their poll feature, which if you haven't seen it, it'll show up in your subscription box. But on Instagram, it's a little different from Twitter in that it's only on a 24-hour, well, it's typically on your story, which is 24 hours, and the person who put out the poll can see what you voted for. So that's different. And also you can only do 2 responses. But yeah. Yeah. If we were what I did mention for a second that Twitter is doing stuff, or no, sorry, Instagram is doing stuff with their stories. They actually updated it so that you have, oh, that's the wrong thing. You have permanent stories, and I think YouTube did it first. YouTube actually introduced, they call it YouTube Reels on YouTube, where creators can put up basically stories. And so far, there's only like a small group of creators that have this feature, but they're permanent and they're semi-permanent. Like you can decide if you want it to be permanent based on your profile. And Instagram released the same exact feature like within hours of YouTube doing it, like not even a day. So I thought that was really interesting that that happened at the same exact time. I'm curious to see if Snapchat will do that. I feel like Snapchat at this point is just trying to keep up with Instagram, which is sad, but it's true. Yeah. What I was saying about how Instagram stepped up their thing with advertisements, this is definitely an example. There's like an ad with a puppy. They have like swiping, I think will increase engagement, but like, I just noticed that ads are better on Instagram. Maybe it's just me feeling that way, but I really, really do think they are a lot better. Another thing that I've been thinking about with Facebook is they had a little bit of a controversy where people were really upset by hearing that, well, there was a research paper that they put out where they said essentially, and it's not this paper I have up right now, but they said essentially they are manipulating people's feed so that their emotions are manipulated. So they'll have like one sad thing, happy, 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 sad, or something in that makes a person continue being on the site. Excuse me. And I was like, duh, of course they're doing that. But people are so upset by it. And I was just like, whatever. But then like you think people, it kind of did bother me that people were so upset by that, because that's like the tip of the iceberg of what Facebook is doing to manipulate us and how much data they have on you. And like if people knew the extent of what Facebook is doing, they'd be so much more upset than that. I mean, I can't, like this paper I have up right here, I definitely want to read it in full. I haven't yet, but you can see in the first paragraph, it says, this is basically what it's about. We report results from an exploratory analysis explaining last-minute censorship or content that is filtered after being written on Facebook. I was kind of confused by this at first, but as I understand it, as I kept reading, I'm pretty sure they're talking about people, or when you'll write a status and then you'll decide not to, and like self-censorship so it's talking about people who will almost post something, but they decide not to. And they go in further. We collected data from 3.9 million people over 17 days. And our results indicate that 71%, what is this saying? Posts are censored more frequently than comments. That makes sense. But then they also said something that's kind of interesting. Males censor posts more than females, and censor more posts with mostly male friends than do females. I definitely read that wrong, but you can read that there. And like, I definitely knew that Facebook was doing this stuff, and it didn't freak me out too much, but like, just think about how specific and how in-depth this one research article is on one specific type of thing to denote that males self-censor themselves more than females. Like, this is an H-paid thing. Like, look at how in-depth this is. If Facebook is willing to do this, think about how much more they're willing to do. And I feel like that is so much of the reason of why Facebook is succeeding more than YouTube. So this is kind of an interesting paper. I want to go and read it. But there's definitely a lot of these papers that Facebook puts out. If you go to the website that this one's on, it looks like this website was made in 2006. Like, Facebook is certainly not trying to show people this. They are not being transparent about this. They are not, like, people get mad at YouTube for not being transparent, but, like, look at this. Facebook is doing some crazy stuff. This is another really interesting research paper. It's from YouTube. I actually found this one because Daryl Eves talked about it at VidCon, and I've been trying to read it for forever and forever and forever. I really have. It's very in-depth. It's very confusing to me, but I can go in and look at a couple different parts. Basically, it's explaining the recommendation system, which is how do things get recommended to you, and that's where, like, the large majority of people find their videos from. It's not really the subscription box anymore. It's from the recommendation system. So this is explaining how things get recommended and the algorithm that allows things to get recommended to you. And this paper is incredibly, like, nice towards YouTube. Like, obviously it was written by YouTube, but it's very kind of complimenting themselves. They say, YouTube represents one of the largest scale and most sophisticated industrial recommendation systems in existence. One of the largest, true. It's probably after Facebook and a couple others. And then they say that scale, this is like the only one that can scale to this large and with this many integrate variables and stuff like that. But yeah, and it kind of goes on to explain some stuff. This is the this is basically a basic diagram of how videos get recommended. So you have the giant corpus, 400 minutes a second or something crazy like that, of videos that are uploaded to YouTube, and then it gets filtered down level by level until it is posted on your recommendation feed. This is kind of interesting to think about. I mean, again, it used to be subscription boxes where people would, like, I guess YouTube fans would get their videos from, but, like, this is part of the thing that makes YouTube so interesting, like its algorithm so interesting and complex. This is super duper interesting to me, and I'm definitely interested in learning more about that. Yeah, so I did mention how people get angry at YouTube for not being transparent. I think after the demonetization gate thing, which, if I'm sure everyone knows this by now, but in it was like the end of March and beginning of, like, March, April, May, June. Yeah, those kind of months, those before the summer, YouTube had been having this battle with brands for a really long time because a lot of big brands put their ads on YouTube, and it was hundreds of millions of dollars, and they were kind of realizing, these brands, that the main reason that has been shown on, like, media, I guess, of why the brands pulled out their ads from YouTube was that they were having ads on, like, videos that weren't brand safe. So, like, news and controversial stuff. They say, like, terrorist videos, but it's just general videos that don't stick with the brands. I think there's a lot of other reasons, especially brands are realizing that, hey, why are we putting our ads on YouTube when it's cheaper and more efficient, and the algorithm, they give us so much more data on Facebook. Like, why don't we just switch? So even though YouTube's been doing this for longer, and YouTube's AdSense or Google AdSense is better, but after that, there was a lot of criticism from the creators, and at that time I completely agreed with it, but now I've kind of really realized that some of it is kind of not ignorant, but short-sighted, and they just don't understand where YouTube's coming from. For example, people say, oh, if only YouTube would communicate with us, if only they would give us more information. But once I've looked more into this stuff, I realized that YouTube does not really more than other platforms, but really the most out of any other platforms to communicate with the creators. They do far more than Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or anything like that. Like when you look on like the data here that Twitter gives us, it's like you get 4 different statistics. That's it. But YouTube, you go in and you can see where people are coming from, all this different stuff. YouTube does a really good job at communicating and providing resources for people. Like they even like provide certification and education, like all this different stuff for the creators. And they have blogs too, a lot of different blogs for everything. This is just one of the blog posts they posted. This was in response to the YouTube Kids difficult problems. It's a whole issue. It's been going on for ages. But they have all these different blog posts explaining what they're going to do. And it's like no one actually reads these. Like none of the fans do. Or I'm sure some of the creators do. But a lot of but it's more for like brands and creators than it is for the general public. So, I guess I am really just defending YouTube. They honestly are doing their best, and they're doing as well as they should be expected to. One other thing that's an interesting development with YouTube is the subscription box, which I talked about for a second. YouTube, I've kind of landed on the conclusion that YouTube doesn't care about the subscription box anymore. I actually got to see James Corden at VidCon, and they're kind of, James Corden and his team is kind of praised on YouTube for being this oh so amazing like channel, because they really are doing very well, and they've had a lot of controversy. But like the one thing that always bothered me was they would all dump all these videos into your subscription box, like 10, 20 videos at once, and it always bothered me. But then I see stuff like this, like from official YouTube Google accounts, where they'll put multiple videos in your subscription box at once. And I guess like you think about this in the context of the subscription box glitches and how complex the recommendation system is. And in the live stream, Tom from the Creator channel and Hank Green had that I talked about, how it doesn't really, or he said specifically that the subscription number is a piece of data that creators are focusing too much on, is that YouTube doesn't really want to build communities anymore. Like they don't want to build that, like that subscriber count isn't something that's super important. And I mean, it's disappointing to like someone who loves YouTube so much for the community side of it, but I mean, it makes sense, I guess. So that's something interesting to think about. And tying it back to the how I was saying all the different platforms are upping up their game with advertisements. They definitely are, and YouTube definitely is. They actually created well, first of all, they announced that they're going to phase out unskippable ads, and that is where you'll have an ad on a video every once in a while where it's 30 seconds. And by the way, I used to think that advertisements, where you see them on YouTube videos, I thought it was like a time thing. Like every 30 minutes I watched, I'd get an unskippable ad or something. But it's not. It's completely dependent on the channel and what type of ads they placed on their own video. And sometimes it's not even the person or the channel, the creator itself. It's the network that owns the channel that decides what type of ads get put on there. So that's something interesting. But another feature YouTube put out was, I think they called it Remix or something. Basically, I read it wasn't quite a case study, but they were talking about this one brand, and they were targeting moms in like, I don't even know, like 30s to 50s. And they were saying that they'd play one ad, and then people who are interested in it, they would get the same ad. They wouldn't get the same ad, but they would keep seeing ads for the same promotion over and over again. But they used the YouTube's feature where they'd remix like the 3-minute long ad into 6-second ads, where it's edited at a different time, and they'd have 60 different ads, 60 different 6-second ads that they would play out to people. So whenever they saw them, they wouldn't be bored or whatever. So I kind of thought that was interesting. It's just one of those small upgrades YouTube has made for the brands. Here's a couple different fun stuff we can talk about. First of all, Amazon is really confusing me. If I'm being completely honest. At VidCon, they actually paid for the industry lounge, the Amazon merch industry lounge. They're definitely focusing on creators with their merch website. You probably know Shane Dawson does his merch now with Amazon. It's interesting, and Amazon tells Shane to like promote it with the features of like, oh, you can get it fast and everything like that. But Amazon definitely is trying to appeal to the YouTube and the social media market. Here they have their giveaway feature, which is interesting. Like you think about all the different places that have tried to sell merch in the past ages, DFTBA, District Lines, like now Nathan Zed's on Shopify or whatever. Like there's never really been just one platform that does it for everyone. A lot of creators will have their own, but like I definitely could believe that Amazon will do really well. I only have a couple more minutes to go through this, but Vine 2 was announced. Really, I don't know how to feel. Actually, I do know how to feel about Vine 2. I think it's kind of dumb that people are so excited about that, because it's like, it's not gonna really happen. Like Vine 1 died. You think Vine 2 is gonna do well? Like it's either gonna have all the same problems and everyone will be like, oh, this sucks, no wonder it failed, let's just go back to Musical.ly and stuff. Or they'll fix it and people will say, I miss the old Vine. Like it's 100% one of those two things. But yeah, Vine 2 is not going to do well. And also the guy who's making it doesn't even have the rights to it anymore. Like Twitter bought Vine. What does he expect to do? So done talking about that stuff. That 30 minutes went by super duper fast. I really enjoyed talking about it, but now I'm going to pull the name for the giveaway. Okay. Ooh, I think there's a couple of blank ones in here, so if I get a blank one, I'm gonna put it back, or I'll put it on the counter. Okay. This is for the patch. Should I just pick one? I'm gonna close my eyes. Okay, I got one. Sarah! Oh, that's backwards. Okay, well, Sarah, you get the patch. I will DM you and get your address right, and then I will mail it to you today. Probably I'll mail it. Ooh, tomorrow's Saturday. But I will mail that to you. I'll make sure that gets to you. Thanks. This is a pretty cool first live stream. I've never really run one of these before. I'm glad that I did it. I definitely want to test a couple different platforms in the future. I wasn't really sure if I should do this on Twitter or Instagram or YouTube, but I picked YouTube. I think I'm going to edit this down into a shorter video so I can put a couple of actual like what's it called, images in the video, and just make it a little more clear and concise to watch. But other than that, this is cool. I'm glad I did this. I'm gonna go and pack and see Rachel soon, in like 24 hours maybe. No, 36 hours. Yeah. Thanks for watching.